Good morning, everyone. That's the last day of our conference, but it doesn't make it less important, so I'm going to start with a few technical things. Our speakers today are going to speak two languages, English and Ukrainian. Please be so kind to use your headphones and headsets. If you don't have one, they're waiting for you at the entrance of the room. So, welcome to the panel. Today's morning panel is how to reach the most vulnerable with aid in Ukraine. And this is a very sensitive topic. We're going to talk about the most vulnerable social groups. My name is Irina Pulvas. I'm going to be the moderator of this panel. We're going to have a discussion. We're going to have two presentations that are going to come at the end of the presentation of the speakers. So let's start. Each speaker has one microphone for two people, so please be so kind to share. There was a bit, it's a bit of technical thing. When you're finished talking, please put down the microphone so the other one could speak. Okay? Thank you so much. Bierman, would you start with you?
Good morning. My name is Bierman. I'm the President and CEO of Ukraine Friends. I'll try to keep it brief since discussion is the main point of why we're here today. Our charity started in March. We've provided about $25 million worth of assistance so far in Ukraine. At first, we started with refugee resettlement in Poland, and we've migrated to humanitarian assistance and reconstruction. Presently, we're working on providing medical supplies through the Ministry of Health and also through the Territorial Defense. We work very strategically. We've got a number of partnerships on the ground, which I'd like to talk about a little bit during our discussion, which I think is really the most important way to reach those vulnerables who have eyes and ears, if you will. One of our most important partners is Rotary International, but we have a number of partnerships with a number of other smaller NGOs, but we also have a footprint in Mukachevo and Lviv who help us create those networks. We're looking forward to supporting Ukraine until the victory is at hand, and then with reconstruction after we're done. I'm looking forward to this discussion, and thank you very much for putting this panel together today.
Thank you. Would you be so kind to add who was the key target audience for your help? Who was those you were helping or reaching?
Yes, thank you for that question. We worked with a number of our partners to identify the most vulnerable in the particular areas, and we've actually worked in Odessa, Mykolaiv, we've worked in Kharkiv, we've worked throughout the Kyiv region, in western Ukraine, in Mukachevo and Lviv, and a number of other small villages. But what has really helped us is the eyes and ears of Rotary International. I think they are our most important partner because they've got 66 clubs throughout all of Ukraine and over 1,500 members, and these people are men and women who are leaders in their specific communities. And so last July we signed an MOU with Rotary International in Chicago, and we've been actually not only utilizing their eyes and ears, but their financial support. We actually partner to double the effort. And again, there's a number of other smaller NGOs that we work with, the European Democracy Youth Network, which is a supported program through the United States Agency for International Development. And they've got membership throughout all of Ukraine, one of the largest networks throughout all of Europe, which right now I believe is in 23 different countries. And then we're also working with smaller NGOs in specific communities through specific charities or specific orphanages or specific types of designated units that have been pointed out to us by either the Ministry of Health or the Territorial Defense. And I also think it's very important to identify a strategy to develop the implementation and the dissemination of what you're actually trying to give or provide, if you will, to these communities that are most vulnerable. And we've done that through working at the highest level, but also at the local level, right? So one, you want to meet with the ministries to understand what it is their priorities are.
I'm definitely going to go back to that. I have to stop you.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
If you will be, just to ask for all the participants, when you're presenting yourself, can you also explain who was the receiver of the help you were giving or receiver of the support? We're definitely going to go back to the Rotary Club because I think amazing stuff was done in this partnership. So we're going to go back to the partnership and to the Rotary Club for sure. I would kindly ask you to put the microphone and pass it to the next speaker, which is Maryna is having
Hi.
one.
Yes, I do have
Maryna,
one.
would you start presenting yourself?
Yes, hello everyone, good morning, and thank you for having me here. It's a great panel and it's a very important discussion. My name is Maryna Baydyuk and I'm the President and Executive Director of United Help Ukraine. We're a Washington-based organization, nonprofit, since 2014. People sometimes think about the war starting in 2022, but 2014, this is when we started and the war started, and we started helping Ukraine then. Our main programs are defenders. We think this is, we talk about vulnerable population, but we see that territorial defense units who were organized at the beginning were also presented with nothing, and we started helping them since February. Number two, medical supplies to medical facilities, hospitals. And we can see now that hospitals are primary points for so many wounded, which are not only military, but also civilians, children, and we think of those as vulnerable populations that we try to help with humanitarian aid. So number three project that we carry on since 2014 is helping refugees, internally displaced people, including children, women, and those who are now residing in gray zones. Something that I wanted to point out quickly is that we also we do a lot of things that Brock just described, working with local NGOs, local municipalities and authorities, also reaching out to the high-level Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Health, aligning our priorities and our tasks with them. But I think it's very crucial to talk to people on the ground, local NGOs who know exactly what the local communities need at any given moment. Humanitarian aid is very dynamic. We know that needs are shifting pretty much every day, and our organization is trying to do everything to meet those needs and help those who are in need at the moment. From food packages, hygienic packages, now we're really focusing on winterization, generators, putting the windows back in those places where it's needed. So those are important parts that we need to think. Talk to your local people, see how we can help in the most efficient way.
We're definitely going to come back to the partnership.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. And our next speaker is Olga Ivanova. Please, Olga, start presenting yourself. I'm reminding you that the logic is not following because we have two people with the presentation, which were sent like just before the start of the panel, so they're going to be the last one to speak. Olga, please.
Hello, everyone. It's nice to be here. For me, it's a little bit déjà vu because I was at the conference Ukraine-Europe in 2019, exactly this location, and I was part of the panel exactly at this studio. And I has been speaking about our target audience of my fund, Stabilization Support Services. It's a Ukrainian charity. And we have been working with internally displaced persons since 2015. And actually, several years ago, I was once again speaking about IDPs and their needs in Ukraine, how Ukraine could help them to get integrated. And our work has been, of course, changing a lot according to the needs change within these years. But of course, we provide humanitarian aid to IDPs to help them to survive. We help the helpers, so we build the capacity of the departments of social protection and labor, those who have consult IDPs, who have to plan and design and implement social aid from the government for IDPs. And we work with IDPs in order to support them so they would be able to advocate for their needs themselves. So we create IDP councils for this.
Just to clarify, can you explain IDP?
Internally displaced persons, so like people who haven't crossed the international border of Ukraine, but they has been changing their place of residency due to the war. So right now we speak about almost 5 to 6 million people who have lost their previous place of residency and relocated inside the country. So they didn't become refugees, they became refugees in their own country.
Thank you so much. The next speaker we are having is Igor Hnatusha. Is a mayor of Komich-Zorya. This is territorial Hromada of Ukraine, currently occupied. So I would kindly ask Mr. Igor to tell more about it and definitely tell the ask. What are you looking for? What is your mission today?
Доброго дня, шановні колеги. Я голова територіальної громади, яка з 3 березня знаходиться під окупацією і особисто відчув все те, що руський мир робить на території
I'd
окупованої.
like to say that
І
I
повірте,
personally
кожна окупована територія,
experienced
яка
what
до сьогоднішнього
is happening
дня
in
є,
Ukraine.
це Буча.
Every
Це постійні
area that's
зґвалтування,
being
розстріли,
occupied has
грабування, приниження
experienced
фізичне,
that. We talk about
моральне.
Bucha, rapes,
І мені довелося бути
atrocities,
там лише місяць.
humiliation.
Були
I was
допити,
there for a month.
були різні
I could
політичні
see
моменти,
interrogation.
які
I
ми
could see some
старалися перебороти, і
political
мені довелося виїхати до міста
actions.
Запоріжжя.
And we were trying to overcome
Моя
that.
місія тут,
Then
я
I moved to
представляю
Zaporozhye.
територіальних громад в
And my
Україні,
mission there,
яка охоплює всю Україну,
I represent
донести
the
до Донора
association
потреби
of the
місцевого
municipalities
самоврядування,
in
медицини,
Ukraine.
яке є
And
в
we
усій
have
Україні.
various municipalities from Ukraine. We want to reach donors, we want to get medical support, and we talk about occupied areas and also the areas that were
technical team. There were still some people without the headphones, and I think it's very important to hear. So please, whoever doesn't have headphones but need them, raise your hand. I saw Powell. Oh, he went. Anybody else? No? No one needs. Okay. Продовжуйте. Я вибачаюся, просто вас не розуміли ті, в кого не було навушників, мали зупинити.
І тому наше головне
I
завдання
wanted
тут,
to
щоб
say that
ваша
people who didn't
допомога
have the
якомога
headset couldn't
швидше
understand.
дійшла
Okay,
до того
our main
споживача.
task is to make sure that the aid reaches the beneficiaries.
Бюрократичних складових і звідти
We want
відносила
to
гарний звіт.
mitigate all the obstacles, bureaucracy, to make sure that the help is done quickly.
Від мене, і я думаю, що від цієї нашої аудиторії, мені б дуже хотілося, розуміючи той
I'd like
біль
to say
і той
That
трагізм
we
ситуації, яка склалася,
understand
все ж таки
the pain
проявити
and
або
the
намагатися пояснити
picture that we had, the
Хтось цих,
tragedy of this situation. I'd like to try to explain
соціальних груп, хто з цих людей,
or
на кого ми маємо
understand
звертати увагу.
who
І
you
ви,
can
як
help
людина, яка
or who
дотична
is
до
the
цього,
most vulnerable.
мені було б
You,
дуже
as a
важливо, щоб ви
person
пояснили,
who
як
has some personal experience, personal
як
relationships.
пріоритизувати. Бо, на жаль,
Could you
це
tell us,
треба
please,
робити.
how
Будь-яку
can we
ситуацію,
prioritize
кожна
the needs?
фундація,
Because this is
кожен
something
фонд
that we
завжди
have to
займається
do.
тим, що він пріоритизує
Every
допомогу,
situation, every foundation,
пріоритизує і
every
фокусується на чомусь одному.
organization
Тому до вас
faces
будуть
the
ці
same
питання
problem. We need to
сьогодні. Ми розуміємо,
prioritize,
що
we
це
need to
важко, і дуже
focus
дякуємо,
on
що ви з нами
one
тут і
priority.
намагаєтеся зробити
I
все
understand
можливе,
that it's really difficult.
змінити
We're really
ситуацію на
grateful that
користь.
you're here
Дякую.
with us.
Thank you
And
so
of
much.
course, we
So our
try
next
to use
speaker
all
is
means
Anna.
possible to change the
Would you please
situation.
present yourself and do a short presentation.
Of course. Can I have the presentation?
Do we have a presentation? Okay, it's coming.
Dziękuję. Nazywam się Anna Korzeniowska i reprezentuję Fundację Koper Pomaga,
My name
która
is Anna
powstała
Korzeniowska.
w
I
Łodzi
represent
w
the
Polsce w
foundation
odpowiedzi
Koper
na to, co
Pomaga, which was
wydarzyło się w
founded
Ukrainie
in
w
Łódź
lutym.
in response to what happened in
Rozpoczęliśmy swoją
Ukraine in
działalność
February.
od
We started our
ewakuacji
activities
ludności,
with evacuating
z
the
Ukrainy.
population from
Przewieźliśmy około
Ukraine.
5,000
We
kobiet i
transported
dzieci,
about
do
5,000
Polski,
women and
a
children to
później,
Poland.
opiekowaliśmy się
And then
nimi,
we took
szukając
care of
im
them.
mieszkania,
We
świadcząc
found
pomoc
accommodation for them.
psychologiczną,
We provided
pomagając w znalezieniu
psychological
pracy.
counseling. We helped them find
Teraz
jobs.
robimy to prowadząc Łódzkie Centrum
Now
Wielokulturowe w Łodzi.
we have the
Drugi obszar
cultural
naszej działalności
center
to
in
niesienie
Łódź for
pomocy
them.
humanitarnej
The
bezpośrednio
second
w
part
Ukrainie.
is humanitarian
Mówiąc
aid
bezpośrednio, mam
directly
na
in
myśli
Ukraine. When I
naprawdę
say
osobiste
directly,
docieranie
I
tam.
mean
Jestem
personal
pomocnikiem
getting
na
there.
czarcie z moim kolegą
I am
Marcinem
usually there with
Banasiakiem
my
oraz
colleague
kilkoma
Marcin
innymi osobami z
Banasiak and a
fundacji.
few other colleagues from the foundation.
Dostarczamy
We
żywność
provide
do
food
miejscowości i wiosek
to
położonych
towns
jak
and
najbliżej frontu
villages
i
which
te
are very
dokładnie do
close
tego,
to the
jak linia
front
frontu się przesuwa,
and
więc reagujemy
close to how the
Naszym
front
partnerem w
moves,
Ukrainie
so
jest
we
Fundacja
react
Jedność i Siła
dynamically.
Charkowa.
Our partner in Ukraine is the foundation Unity and Strength from Kharkov. They also take care of our safety. They tell us where we should go and what we should take.
Razem z nimi
Together with them,
również program
we
wyposażenia
also have a
schroniów
program
przeciwbombowych,
of equipping
w sposób taki,
the
by
shelters,
ludzie
bunkers,
mogli tam
so
przetrwać
that
najbliższą
people can
zimę.
survive the
Nie jesteśmy w
winter
stanie
there.
zapewnić
We are not
ogrzewania,
able to
prądu i wody
provide
każdemu jednostkowo w
heating,
mieszkaniu,
energy,
ale
water to
możemy wytworzyć
everyone in their
miejsca, w
floods,
których
but we
oni
can
się gromadzą
equip
na
some
swoich
places where they
osiedlach.
gather
I to jest program, który
in
realizujemy
their
w tej chwili.
residential areas. And this is the program we are
Ale również to, co
pursuing
wspomniała
currently.
pani,
But it's also
ocieplanie
what you
domów,
mentioned,
zabijanie
installation
otworów
of
ocieplnych, których nie ma
houses
już.
or closing
Nasz
the
kolega
windows
dziś
without
leci z Słowiańska,
panes.
gdzie takie rzeczy robił przez ostatnie dni.
So we have a colleague who have been doing these things for the last few days. It's very important to me what you said internally. You know the situation internally. Our personal going there is the priority that we have. So not risking corruption, slow down in providing aid, unnecessarily prolonged supply chain. We want to be there. We want to see what the situation is, and we want to react as soon as possible. To sum up, I would like to say what motivates us, because it's obvious to us that Ukrainians are not only fighting for their freedom, their piece of land. I think they are fighting for the future of all of Europe. They represent us on the front, and we see our role in such a way that in this time we can look after their mothers and wives here in Poland. We can help them survive this very difficult situation there, which has been caused by Putin there. We don't want our world to be ruled by Putin. We want the world that we have dreamed of. So this is our form of help.
You can always support the speaker with an applause, if you agree. Thank you. Just a short comment to the audience. The more you are involved, the better we talk. So this is emotional discussion. So we have to get involved with each other because this is the essence of the conference. So please don't be shy, applaud and get involved. Thank you.
Odpowiadając na twoje ostatnie pytanie.
And to answer your last question, our beneficiaries in Poland are mostly women and children because they have to be looked after, whereas in Ukraine it's usually elderly people, people with disabilities, with some other limitations, who for some reasons important to them were not able to leave. They had to stay there, and they are a group that we want to help.
And thank you
very
for all
much.
of your words and your vision. Without all of you, it wouldn't be impossible. It would be impossible, and we could not do that much as we're doing today all together. So thank you so much. Nadiia, please proceed. I would kindly ask you to be as fast as possible because I would love to have a discussion. Thank you.
Can you bring no, this is one. Thank you. Доброго дня всім. Мене звати Надія Ковальчук. Я представляю
Hello everyone, my name is Nadiia Kovalchuk. I represent the state organization Right to Protection. I'm a deputy director. Right to Protection is the biggest Ukrainian organization which looks after IDPs' rights, the rights of refugees, and people, the rights of people without citizenship. We've been working since 2014. Today we have about 980 specialists who help people who have suffered because of the war, especially displaced persons. They provide legal help. We monitor the rights of the IDPs, of internally displaced persons, and that they are followed in municipalities, in towns and villages. We provide social services, we provide financial help, we provide material help and psychological counseling to our beneficiaries. We also provide legal help and legal protection to the refugees in Ukraine, as well as to people without citizenship. Right now, we are in 20 regions in Ukraine. Our budget exceeds $30 million. Now we are supported by 24 international organizations, our donors. Because I was asked to be very short, so thank you very much. These are the key elements. When we were preparing for this panel, I talked to Irena about what's important, what we should mention. Probably it's the people I work with. When we were preparing these slides, it was really difficult to prepare this image, this portrait of who really needs the help. It was difficult, but we tried. So when we talk about legal help, we are usually approached by people who need legal help, who are women between 30 and 45 years of age, who were displaced. They had to move from Donetsk region to Vinnytsy region, Oblast. And usually they need or they seek financial help. When it comes to psychological help, it's usually also a woman between 30 and 45 years of age who was relocated from the east and south to the Kijovsky Oblast. Monitoring and social protection. It's a woman from 35 to 49 years of age who lives in a center of protection, who has many children. There is a problem with access to social funding. She doesn't have a flat. People don't understand what's going to happen. And usually what we hear from people is, I don't know how to live. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with my children, where I should get help. I don't know where I'm going to live and where I'm going to get a flat. When it comes to cash assistance, we now have over 600,000 people who need it. And it's the same problems. Again, people don't get any financing, they don't have jobs, they can't they can't satisfy basic needs. They don't have money for food, for clothes, for hygiene products. And because winter is coming, what they need is warm clothes, warm boots. The conditions people live in are difficult a few times because we often have monitoring trips, and when we come to a center where people sleep, for example, at schools for a few months, a lot of people are again displaced. So it's the second time because they were displaced after 2014 and now they have been displaced again. So they are really frustrated and they need all kinds of assistance. Sometimes it's very difficult to understand all of that. And statistically speaking, right now, we've already helped over 268,000 people. About 82,000 of our beneficiaries received legal help. 600,000 people are registered for financial help. 8,000 people have received psychological help. Our organization, well, we think that we are one of the most effective organizations. We are often asked how we've become so successful. We have a big team of people who manage all this help. I think what unites us is that we have a mission that we want to help. We want to help reduce the number of needs and the problems that are present in Ukraine right now. State organizations, in our opinion, should be the biggest providers of humanitarian aid. We think that Ukraine should design a new system of social protection because these big numbers of people that have been through state organizations is just a small part of what people in Ukraine need right now. And the system of social protection and the state should react
I'll be
to this.
straightforward with the audience, with the panelists. This is the third day, so we learned a lot from all of the panels and all of the discussions we had. Yet I think it's important enough to be straightforward. We have a beautiful case today of representative of occupied territory, so the receiver of the help, the person who runs municipality, the representatives of different organizations helping all over Ukraine. So I would ask us today to build a case. We would hear 2 points of views. One gonna be yours, how you envision groups and vulnerable and help, and when help is done, and the other would be yours. So we can do a bit of... Ігор, ви зрозуміли, що я маю на увазі? Давайте... Ви чуєте мене? Добре. Давайте зробимо наступне сьогодні, я пропоную. Ми будемо формувати 2 точки зору. Так, як це бачать міжнародні організації, національні організації. І як бачите це ви? Як ми бачимо соціальні групи,
international organizations see it and how you see it.
питання бачите 2 точки зору.
Assistance to various social groups. We will see 2 different points of views.
Тоді продовжимо. Давайте
Do you agree?
почнемо.
Great. So that's how we are going to continue.
Let's start from
So let's
the
start.
main question. Today, after almost 10 months of war, when do you think that help is provided? How can you identify that help is provided and the job is there and it's done? Please start. Yes, please do.
You talked about setting priorities, and I think it's important to not only set a priority, but also have a strategy. When we delivered our first 3 ambulances back in May, we found out very quickly that we'll never be able to provide all of the assistance that's needed throughout the entire country. So how do you climb a mountain that you'll never reach the top of, right? I think you have to do that in developing relationships and partnerships. And what we decided to do was go straight to the ministry. In fact, the Deputy Minister for Health, Oleski Eremenko, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name, he's actually at this conference, and we've had a good relationship straight away with the Ministry of Health. And then we've also worked with Serhii Sobko at the Territorial Defense. My point being is that we'll never be...
Ex-Minister of Infrastructure. No?
Yes, but he's also helping us with actually identifying and prioritizing where the ambulances go. After we delivered those 3 ambulances, I met with General Sobko, and he said, Brock, we need 1,000 ambulances yesterday. And I said, well, I can't supply you 1,000 ambulances. So we can help you with ambulances, but you're going to have to tell us where they go, right? And so we developed a strategy where they actually have a daily situation report, right? Where that they know where those ambulances go. But it's not just a matter of a daily situation report where we're actually identifying the priority areas. There's also a matter of transparency, there's a matter of reporting, there's a matter of analysis, impact, and data. So we work alongside both the Ministry of Health and also the Territorial Defense to develop a strategy that is transparent, where we deliver the ambulances actually out to the front lines. We expect that they will not only show us how the ambulances are being used, but provide us with data, and that they actually have a mechanism in place that identifies the most needed units at that given time. And it's whether it's the Territorial Defense, right, or the Ministry of Health, we have to have a process in place. But here's something and I'm trying to be as quick as I possibly can with all this. I'm talking probably pretty quick. But I think
it's a very good point, so keep talking.
Look, if I go back to the United States and I ask a donor to say, would you give me money to buy ambulances? They're going to say, well, Brock, how did you decide where to send that ambulance? Because I get requests every single day from particular battalions or mayors or members of parliament, hospitals, city council people, you name it. I receive letters every single day. We need, and there is a need. I'm not saying that they don't need it, but I can't supply them all. But there has to be a better coordination, and my point to them at the local level is to try to work through the ministries and provide them the data that they need to prioritize, and then it has to be somewhat of a top-down approach. There is a need for an understanding at the local level, but if you don't have eyes and ears across the board, and you can't make an argument to your donors as to why you're supplying that particular community or that particular battalion or that particular regiment an ambulance, they're not going to continue to support you, because there could be an element of corruption that they could view that way. So
can I share a case, please, and then you elaborate on it? I was talking to humanist from Switzerland. He's like quite young person who had a capital, and he's going to different places all over the world because he was 35, became a multimillionaire, and said that life doesn't make sense. So he starts coming to, you know, these hot spots in the world. And then he just came back from Ukraine. That's why we were talking. And I'm asking him, like, what was your experience? He said it wasn't scary. There was nothing wrong. I was prepared. So I said, where's the issue? Why are you not happy? Why are you not sharing emotionally? And he said, I'm going to explain. I was told that I have to bring pallets with stuff. He was focused on helping firemen and those who are the SNS, those who are reacting to, how do you call this SNS? Okay, it's emergency services. Yes, sorry. And he said, we brought the help, and it stays in Oblast on the logistic hub. I went to Bakhmut, and they have a terrible Soviet car, and they need to save people every day, like tens, if not hundreds of people. They need better cars. They don't need it in a hub. So, being direct as I am, how do you think this can be solved? Where it starts? Is it starts from the pressure? Is it start from the standards of international organizations? How we can change that and how we can make a help effective and really really help? How to measure this efficiency? And does government has to be involved?
Well, of course, government absolutely has to be involved. And government has to be transparent. Government has to supply data. Government has to supply reporting and analysis. They have to tell you why is it they chose that particular location. But they also have to rely on those local battalions or those local communities to supply them the information. So I think it's a partnership, right? And what I've seen with the territorial defense, at least at the headquarters level, that they are working throughout the entire country. They are working with the local battalions. They are working with the local military leadership at the local level, because we understand that the territorial defense is new to Ukraine, and it is somewhat on a National Guard level like we have in the United States, which is kind of independent grassroots effort from the bottom up. But there has to be some type of coordination, and that coordination has to be understood by both sides.
Thank you. Would anyone like to add? Please do.
Ja chętnie, jeśli mogę, zapytałaś, jak się
You asked this question, how we can make sure that this help is effective. We have no problem with that because we do it in person. I go there, this is me giving the package, I know that person, I enter the flat, and I can see a lady without a leg, and I know that this package is for her. So there is no fear that somebody will just give a part of it
identify
or
to
not.
which city to go? How are you prioritize? That's important.
W tym, jak powiedziałam, pomaga nam lokalne partnerstwo.
Yes, we have local partnership. We have the Unity and Strength Foundation from Kharkiv, and this is how we cooperate. We plan together with them, and we know that in 2 weeks we go to Lugansk, and then in next 2 weeks we'll go to Donetsk, and then we decide where we go and when we go, depending on the situation, occupation, etc. And when we go there, we see what's going on, and we make decisions. We decide if we need to go back. We visited some places just once, and there are places that we've been visiting many times. And we reach places where governmental help hasn't ever been received. I don't know why, but we were one of the organizations that came there with packages and help. Sometimes it happens that this organized aid is sent to one central point where people should go, register, and take the help they need, the stuff. And sometimes some people never go there. That's why you need to go out and you need to meet those people. Even if we have stuff in Kiev, some people will never get it. I'd like to add, we try to minimize the bureaucracy. That's why maybe we should contact the association, because as you know, the beneficiaries are people. Sometimes it's enough to meet local authorities. Local authorities know the needs of local people. When it comes to reports, humanitarian aid, we have that practice. Best practice is to do that, and we know that if you cooperate directly with the mayor or the municipality directly, it's best and it's professional. Could you repeat the name of the association? The Association of Municipalities in Ukraine. Yes, we have that kind of association. We have almost 700 members in our association. So if we get the aid, we'll get more municipalities that would like to participate in our association. We have some rural municipalities and urban municipalities. Okay, let me just stop for a moment, because yes, you're a politician. I need to stop you for a second to understand everything. When it comes to working with municipalities, it can be effective. We agree. But let me ask, I believe this is really interesting, and I think that everybody here will be interested in that.
Як вам працювати з тими структурами,
How
хто
can we cooperate
системно формує
with
запити на
various
всю Україну,
ministries,
наприклад, медичні
with
запити,
the
запити інфраструктурні,
authorities
вони точно
that
формуються
create
через
the
міністерство.
structure, that manage the operations, medical operations, etc. This is managed by the ministry. You, as the representative of municipality, can you share your opinion? Is this path effective, or maybe it should be changed? We have some legal framework. We cooperate with ministries. And when it comes to peacetime, it was working properly. Now we have wartime, and it's different. The war slows down the whole process. It's not as effective. Sometimes it can be even harmful. If you want to get aid faster, you would need to request it yesterday. You need things immediately. It takes minutes, seconds. We work hard and the ministry works hard, but bureaucracy is still there. And I believe that when it comes to effectiveness, it's worse. So when it comes to effectiveness, how do you understand the need of help? We have this urgent problem. It requires certain solutions. You have a donor, they provide services, aid, it needs to be fast. Yes, we have very good professionals. Of course, reporting is very important, but we've learned so far that we have professionals responsible for certain actions, and we can do it fast. Yes, thank you very much.
I'd like to add a few points from our experience, and I could very much agree with my colleagues regarding working with the communities, because that's what we're doing. We collecting needs from the communities, and we work directly with the community. And I also would like to support Natalia, who said about importance working through local NGOs, I guess, for foreign partners, for international...
You mean Nadia?
Nadia, sorry.
It's okay.
I guess that's the main lessons learned from the war in Ukraine since 2014 for all international partners. You shouldn't try to invent the bicycle. The bicycle is already here. You have local organization which has been very well developed since 2014. We learned a lot, we made a lot of mistakes. We know how to do this job right now. We know how to make needs assessment, we know how to collect information, we know how to report. That's all in place. Yes, I understand that, of course, not all Ukrainian organizations, they are like identical with identical experience and so on, but the knowledge is there.
Yeah, but I would stop you on all. I don't like when people say all. I'm going to explain why. When we recognize that there is a difference between all of us, that there is a spectrum of how organizations react, there is a knowledge, but it's different. Like, everybody's so different. I heard a lot of feedback from international organizations how hard is to cooperate with Ukrainian organizations because they are not structured the way or not following the rules like international community or international humanitarian like sphere is functioning. So let's be a bit resistant to all, most, or the ones that you know.
Oh, I definitely know a few dozen of Ukrainian organizations created after 2014 who work with the major international donors, and I adhere to all the policies and the procedures. And yes, of course, there are some who don't want to do it this way. But just technically, the knowledge is there, and I was just coaching a few volunteering initiatives myself to share my experience as a manager of NGO, how we could do things better, just to learn from the experience. Speaking about the ministries, we have been working with Ministry of Social Policy a lot, with Ministry of Temporary Occupied Territories, which has changed the name and the structure a lot within these years. And we have been building their capacity a lot and advocated with them, and we have some experience. And I just would like to remind that the main role, according to Ukrainian legislation, which ministries has, it's to define the policy, it's to define the strategy, and to, of course, control the implementation of this. But I see more a problem in the situation when the ministry, instead of design a proper strategy vision for displaced persons, for veterans, for elderly population, starts manually distributing the aid. We need this there, go this, do this. The role of the ministry is not a distribution of humanitarian aid. Yes, they have to provide information, they have to have recent needs assessment and share them with the partners. But still, it is more about some other mechanism, like coordination mechanism, UN cluster system, different working groups, coordination headquarters at level of oblasts, at national level. That's up to them more than to the ministries.
Returning to my point, would you please be so kind to identify how you measure that help is delivered and done in your organization? So what is the point when you say, okay, we delivered the help?
For instance, as a case, I could present you such typical working process. So we have network of our regional coordinators embedded in oblast level, embedded at communities level. They report us needs which they collect at the local level. We discuss with donors which donor, which program could satisfy this
By
need.
local level, it's municipality, right?
Yes, hromadas, sometimes oblast, sometimes some cities, sometimes like villages, it could vary. And for instance, when we speak about such vulnerable population as pensioners, sometimes they are not able to apply for the aid themselves, so we communicate with social workers in that particular location, and they fill in the application form to get the aid. And we deliver, and we collect all the reportings, photos, all the number of, all the amount of personal information required by Ukrainian legislation. And yes, the problem is, of course, that needs, unless there is a proper governmental support on the regular basis, and unless the pensions are paid, social payments are paid, these needs in humanitarian aid will keep remaining on a regular basis. People will eat the food which has been delivered, they will take medicine which has been delivered, and they will need it once again. But once again, if you have connection to Hromada, to the city, you can get the updated information. And of course, sometimes we deal with bigger, like needs list, like for instance, like from community, where we get the list of needs of, I don't know, several hundred people or some local collective centers where IDPs live, and we could satisfy such need. My main question right now is how we could work with occupied territories.
Yes,
in order not to have a problem with all the collaborationist legislation in Ukraine, not to be seen as a collaborators.
Yeah. We're definitely going to raise this question as soon as we finish and give the word to everyone else, please.
I just wanted to add something. So our organization, we've delivered over $40 million in humanitarian aid and medical aid to Ukraine. So one thing is delivering aid that is absolutely needed at the moment. But I think a lot of organizations should also think about delivering sustainable aid. How can we help communities to provide for themselves? I think this is a big issue because we see that just delivering food packages to community is one thing. How can that community survive after the humanitarian aid is gone? After our organization just delivered and went on to deliver to another deoccupied territory? How can we provide what's exactly needed for the community to survive the winter, survive the cropping, right? So survive the season for agriculturally, survive that. So what we were trying to do in the past is identify small communities and their needs, farming needs, agricultural needs. Do they need a tractor to plant?
Empowerment strategy.
Exactly. And I think this is something that we have to shift from just providing aid to provide aid that can empower communities for sustainability and long-term needs that they can provide for themselves. This is also going to create jobs and create community, basically maintain the communities the way they are. And each community might have something different. Could be agricultural. We also have some communities that provide food for others and things like that. So organizations need to assess the sustainability of their aid as well as just delivering where it's most needed. So number one. And number two thing is our children. I think we should definitely get to this really vulnerable population, their psychological aid, the education that they're receiving now, because that's the future. Again, that's our sustainability. It's again, thinking about the future, not just what we need at the moment. And psychological aid for kids is absolutely essential, especially those who are went through a post-war trauma. And our organization is providing such aid, and I know there are a couple of discussions that were here just about the psychological aid for kids, which is absolutely important. And another thing is education. Kids doing a lot of online learning, is that good enough? Can we, again, provide, as organizations, as international organizations, provide aid to help schools build bomb shelters that are also, they also have educational centers, so children receive a quality education, again, for future needs. So I think those points are important to discuss in terms of sustainability, empowerment, and our future.
I hear all of you. We still have 23 minutes, and I think the audience would love to ask the questions. And occupied territories is a very important one. Partnerships is a very important one, and the trust to municipalities. Brick, would you please
just
add,
wanted
and then Nadiia.
Really quickly, just partnerships are critical, right? And I always like to say 1 + 1 = 3, right? So when you've got people working together, it is the sum of that working together that's going to provide more. In fact, we have a great relationship with the mayor of Bucha, the regional council in Kyiv, and also the TDF, and we're all working right now together on sustainability and looking at opportunities, because we realize that sustainability is important, but also leveraging opportunities. And we've got a rehabilitation project where we're actually rehabilitating ambulances that were already in the Kyiv region for $1,000 each, rather than buying new ones for $10,000 or $15,000.
And transporting them all over the world.
That's right. So rather than buy something in Germany and have it transported to Ukraine, let's get something in our backyard that may not work, that will be a lot cheaper. Because at the end of the day, an ambulance is an ambulance. And they need 1,000 of them yesterday, as the general had said. So we've got to develop partnerships, and we've got to develop relationships at both the local, the state, and the federal level that are going to be effective. And I would just say that you're right, Igor, about understanding what's at a community level, but I also think bureaucracy is important in a way that is efficient and transparent, because people have to know where their resources are going. I have to trust that these leaders at the local, middle, and federal level are working with us transparently in order to make sure that my donors understand how that money is being spent. And then I would also say that getting out, lastly, I'll just end with this, what's really important is getting more Americans informed about what's going on here, what's going on in Ukraine. And as part of our programs, we actually bring American volunteers and actually drive the ambulances to Kyiv to get them to become ambassadors when they go home and help not just raise money or funds, but raise awareness as to what's going on in Kyiv and the tragedies.
Thank you. Nadiia?
Я, мабуть, дві речі хочу сказати. Перша, ключове, напевно, що найпроблемніше було це координація. Ми почали респонс з другого дня, тому що ми мали досвід на Сході з 2014 року, і ми знали, які будуть потреби і проблеми в наших бенефіціарів. Наша команда переїхала на Схід, на Захід і в Центральну Україну, і ми фактично відразу почали консультувати людей, підтримувати і так далі. Не вистачало координації на
And we started supporting Ukraine there, but we lacked coordination at the local level, at the state level. And this is where we can see, where we are sorry to say that we were not prepared. We're not prepared for the invasion on the state level. International organizations already had that experience. They knew how to coordinate in a situation of such conflicts, and we expected support from them when it comes to coordination. Unfortunately, not everything went as we thought it would. And now, when we're talking about collections of aid or getting aid for different types of needs, all this leads to a lot of problems because some needs haven't been satisfied.
Чия це відповідальність? Це дуже важливе питання. У нас немає розуміння, чия це відповідальність. Всі, я не буду говорити за всіх, тому що я зупинила Олю, але
I'm not going to talk about everyone now.
Перенаправлення шляхів, воно дуже важке. Чия це відповідальність на вашу точку зору? Хто має відповідати за те, щоб не було дублювання допомоги, за те, щоб не було видачі карток?
Who should be responsible so that aid is not repeated?
Але я не буду зупинятися.
I'm really sorry because it's a really difficult topic.
На деокупованих територіях, де бляха нема світла, вони видають картки. Я хочу запитати, навіщо виробляти картки,
for example, there are no electronic cards given out in places where there is no energy, where there is no power. A person has to go through the whole bureaucracy process, but they don't know how to do it because there is no power supply. And then they say, we don't have energy, we don't have electricity, how are we supposed to do it?
Хто відповідає, чия це роль на вашу думку?
And who is responsible?
Що міжнародні організації не використали
We've talked a lot about the fact that international organizations did not provide help when it comes to experience, not fully. And now we can pose a question. Who made a mistake? Was it the person who was responsible at a state level? And the fact that there was no coordination between this state and an international organization? I'm sorry, I will interrupt, but now when we look at the situation that has happened, how can we change the situation in order for it to be better? Well, now each organization already has some rules, some principles after this experience. Our groups know what kind of help is needed, how we can provide it. But there is another side to it, social protection. Because right now in Ukraine, there has been a reform implemented, and right now
два типи громад. Новостворені громади, які ніколи не надавали цих послуг. Вони не мають відповідних структур, управлінь, закладів соціального захисту. І в цей же момент в їхніх громадах
Went to municipalities, there is no social protection, and right now the number of people with difficult living conditions, IDPs is increasing, or of people with disabilities, single parents, and municipalities don't have a possibility to deal with this problem. The state, at the level of ministry, should decide how the social protection system should work. It shouldn't work in a way that this person is left in difficult living conditions, life conditions, but they should be, it should be possible for them to integrate. They should be able to find a job or to be self-employed, to start their own business so that these people can integrate and feel that they are a valuable member of the community they have joined and with which they will stay for some time. And another thing is that the state should think how people cannot remain a vulnerable community. People from the East came to the West. I know that some people are worrying about how long they are going to stay. I think it's a matter of understanding and dialogue. I think there should be an open dialogue about how this system of social protection should function, what they need, etc. Of course, the state will not be able to make it on their own at the level of the government or a municipality. That's why the social services should be provided not by state structures. They should replace the function of the state. But every time when we talk about this problem, and let me emphasize that we should also talk about achievements. Today I wanted to emphasize that achievements, reforms, decentralization, the process of decentralization led to a situation in which municipalities are represented by people who know the needs and know how to react to them. And moving to another question, I have a question for you, so maybe I will start with you. When it comes to strategic activities in the occupied territories, when we understand the scale, the size of the problem, how do you set priorities of help? How do you make up? How do you set the system of priorities? When do you go to international organizations? How does the selection look in your case, Igor? Let me just refer to responsibility when it comes to decentralization. We got the resources and we took over their responsibility. And for the time of the war, when we were supposed to defend of the terrains of municipalities, an organization was set up and territorial defense was set up, units of territorial defense, and we had to defend it from the south to the north. Unfortunately, in the south, we didn't have a lot of time for that because it was the first days and there were too many enemies. Now, when we talk about occupied land, it's all in the future. Getting back these terrains is not going to be easy. It's going to be connected with some damage, with some losses. We are ready for that. But now what we send there is pharmaceuticals. We know the pain and suffering of those people who have been there for 10 months and they have been receiving aid, sometimes illegally. Now, about the legalization of the process of the occupied terrains, let's talk about this. You receive help as the head of the organization, local organization, and how does the reporting process look?
When it comes to reporting, if we, let's say, talk about medical support, we go to the municipality, we have a list. Of course, there will be no reports or pictures because doctors, volunteers distribute the staff. And right now, we have let's say a little bit more than 50% of people who are left there, those are elderly people. And we distribute pills, medical assistance, what's critical for their survival. Of course, rations bring some kind of medicals, but this is below standards. So could you tell us, yes, that's really difficult. This is a gray area because you don't want to collaborate with them. Yes, when we talk about responsibility, we can talk about that later, if getting insulin was collaborating with rations or not. Life is the most important. We have 2 points of view. Let's move to Brick. We have a question.
Collaborator when we are discussing this gray territory of supporting occupied territories. Yeah, it's a bit complicated. It's all fine. Can you please tell us your point of view? Is supporting the life of one human being on the occupied territory is more important than the risk of possibly being a collaborator in this gray area of occupied territories and still supplying and helping occupied territories?
I think we have to do everything we can to save every single life. We shouldn't treat any particular life any different than any others. We have to do what we can as much as we possibly can, but there'll never be enough resources to address the need that's in Ukraine. We just have to do the best we can in terms of trying to supply and work together to address those needs. You know, it's criminal what's going on in eastern Ukraine, clearly, but we'll work the best we can to address every single need as it arises. I hope that answers your question, but in terms of what we're trying to accomplish, we do the best we can with the limited resources we can, and we try to strategically place it, and we try to do it in a transparent way. And I also should mention that we also work with every one of our stakeholders to actually put in writing a memorandum of understanding so everyone is clear in terms of how we're doing it, where we're doing it, and why we're doing it. And again, we can't help everyone, but we're trying to do the best we can.
Thank you. Please.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something. When we see the occupied territories, right, in terms of collaboration, and we see what's more important, a life of Ukrainian people on occupied territories versus being called a collaborator. What we see now when the territory is deoccupied, we see people welcoming Ukrainian soldiers. They want to be back, a lot of them. Well, let's put it this way, not all probably are welcoming Ukrainian soldiers, but majority are. And if we're saving their lives and they are initially liberated, we're saving them to join Ukraine and be back in the community. So I think it's important to save as many lives as possible and supply as much as we can to those hopefully temporarily occupied territories with life-saving medicine.
Thank you. Oля? It's on, just start talking.
I think that this panel, we all agree that life is more important, but the problem is that Ukrainian current legislation and the standards of the donors force those who believe that life is more important than any kind of labels you can get for that support. We have to work, as Igor mentioned, just in a shadow. We have to do it in a way which we can't properly report, and of course not all the donors ready to give money on this on such terms. That's just also my personal experience, and that's once again, I guess, call for international community to consider some possibility to work not only with governmental control areas, but work more with also occupied territories. Everyone is afraid of the risks, unfortunately, and speaking about Ukrainian legislation, it is also what we've seen after Donbas has been occupied. The government says, we don't have any power over these territories. We don't know what is happening. We have no control. So we just should switch off this population from most of the channels of interaction. So it means that Ukraine stopped paying pension.
We're acting 8 years ago. That's
Sorry?
what Ukraine did 8 years ago. That's not what Ukraine doing now during the war.
Right
It's
now,
important.
just we speak, yes, Kherson got liberated recently and earlier than we were able to expect, but we had already a bunch of communication from the ministries who insisted on people residing at occupied territories, for instance, Kherson, re-register their businesses and individual entrepreneurship in not occupied territories. And yes, that was the beginning of the process, which also started the process at Donbass, just because the next stage is the banking cards partially were switched off just because banks don't want to have risks. And yes, it was just our luck that Kherson was so quickly liberated. And the problem is that it is still in the legislation that government says, no, we can't do anything about these territories. We should limit any interaction. And potentially, if you even hire a person who is registered in Kherson, you may have questions from Ministry of Finance, from other regulators. And I guess it's just like a really bigger discussion about the whole legislation and how we treat these territories, and yes, about the donors and their policies as well.
Yeah, but it's all, each single, I see you, Anna. Each single question is bringing us back to, is bureaucracy our limitation or our help of helping the most vulnerable? So I think it's both. And it's such a complex topic and such a deep conversation. We cannot, reach all of it, but we hear at least where we shall work or where we shall focus our attention. Anna, please. And then I will quickly say, if the audience has the questions, if you have any questions, please be prepared. I want a technical team to be prepared with a microphone. No, just wait. We'll have 3 minutes for the questions. Anna will finish. We'll follow up with the questions to be quick. Yes, please do finish. First, finishing. Okay, thank you.
I'd like to rely to something that you mentioned before. We were talking about the fact that you have some representatives on site. I feel a little bit worried about what I heard, that you send people from America to Kiev and then people come back to America and they say what they experienced. And I'm afraid that being in Kiev is not the best place to check how the war is going on, because that's not a true war. This is what I wanted to highlight. You won't be able to see the atrocities of all Russian actions, and I'm really sorry for using the words. I'm the only Polish person here. I go there, I pass the city every month, and I reach the places where you can experience and face the real atrocity and see the real world.
This because I think it's important you know it's not just Kyiv. And I'm not going to get into the particular areas that we delivered our ambulances, but we've been within a kilometer of the Russian border. We've gone to areas around Kharkiv, we've gone to Mykolaiv. They've literally shelled over our heads. I've seen shelling from Russian missiles firing into villages, as has the people who have come with me. And I've seen the atrocities in villages like Mushan, where 97% of the homes weren't just shot at, they were completely destroyed. So the people in the United States need to see that. When I say Kyiv, I use the generalization, and for that I clarify, but I want you to know that these Americans are getting right up to the front lines, and that's the only way they're going to understand the tragedy that's occurred. They're talking to the people that have been infected, whether it's whether it's the mayor of Bucha or the council person in Bushova or it's other people throughout all of Ukraine. But we go right up to the line and we make sure they see exactly what's going on.
I hear
Just
you.
to be clear.
And I want to tell all the panelists and all the audience, there's one thing I would kindly ask you to remember. To bring the change, we have to stop judging each other. And we have to get over the stereotypes. We have to trust each other. Each one of us here was somehow selected because we did the best we could. So let's trust each other and believe that we're doing the best. But good point. Coming to the questions.
Thank you very much.
We have like 5 questions today.
Thank you very much. I think it is maybe possible and desirable to build up integration between displaced person and the local community. Because from this disaster, under the barbarian attack, should be in the future maybe some positive result. Because if some people live for, nobody can say how long still, in another community, there should be some friendship, should be some understanding, and maybe in the future it will more integrate Ukrainian population. So might be it is useful to look for the integration of the displaced person with the local community as far as it is possible.
Thank you. Is anyone ready to answer? Igor, please, it's yours.
Я є той самий переселенець, який інтегрувався в місто Запоріжжя. І повірте, ми навіть і трішки не замітили якоїсь різниці між нами. Тому що коли війна йде в Запоріжжі, вони не окуповані, але той невеликий страх самої війни він є в кожному. І ми один одного що зрозуміли, ми живемо в Запоріжжі, та й всі українці, єдина сім'я, яка нам уже не треба один до одного інтегрувати. У нас єдина
territory. We feel as a family. We don't have to integrate more. We need to overcome and fight the enemy.
Ми нещодавно завершили дослідження про власне яким чином і які причини для конфліктів можуть бути в громадах між внутрішньо переміщеними особами і
We've checked, we've been analyzing the possible conflicts between various cities or different issues that we think of. And the first thing that we need to focus on is reconstruction. The other issue is ideology, and that has been a problem for many years. And our task right now is to make sure that an IDP feels accepted, feels at home, so that this person knows that the population, the society uses the potential, that this person feels needed. And right now we're working on that, and we have been working on that since 2014. And we had solutions when we think about NGOs, representatives of the government. Everybody works together. We want to discuss and find common solutions so that we have strength together.
Where's my stage manager? Can we take, don't everyone is the audience. Is it okay if we take 5 more minutes and answer some questions? Stage, are we okay with 5 more minutes? Okay, we are okay because they are chaotic. So coming back to the questions.
Добрий день всім. Я є представником саме тих територій, де війна йде вже 9 років. Я з Луганщини.
I'm a representative of people who live in those territories. I come from Donetsk. My region has been occupied since 2014, at least part of it. I'd like to share my experience. We've created various hubs, my Lugansk in the whole country. Every IDP can go there and search for help, but bureaucracy kills the system. I'm a representative of people who left the region, and we took the responsibility and we wanted to help other IDPs. We wanted to provide aid. Of course, we have our budget, but this is related to financial aspects. Bureaucracy isn't helping. I need to say that sometimes we have blackouts for 8 hours. Yes, you look amazing, if I may say. We have no time to make sure that our houses are warm because we use the electricity to prepare the food, to do the washing. And I wanted to say that those humanitarian hubs don't have power generators. There's no Starlink. It's needed. There are many people waiting for support. And every day we hear new data. We get the info about new location where the health is needed. People risk their lives to inform us about that. I'm ready that when somebody can come to my house and want to arrest me, so then I need to mark this place so that I can get help. That's why we need Starlink. We need to inform others about the need. We have 24 regions in Ukraine. Where we have those hubs, and we have one power generation, one Starlink. Thank you very much. And the final question, because we have no time.
Я хочу, щоб ми сьогодні зрозуміли, у вас дуже класна вийшла дискусія, але інколи ви говорили про медіасанітарну з іншої точки зору.
We have a great discussion. We've talked about similar topics from different points of view. When people moved to Ukrainian terrain, we can include the whole bureaucracy. We can give them bank cards, we can help them. There is no need for integration because we are all Ukrainians from Kherson to any other city. There are 3,000 people living in my town. We created conditions for them which are better than there were for our people who are in need. And when they say we need yeast and flour, we give them. We just collect it, we give them without any documents. We believe this person who says that. The representatives of local authorities is a road to go around bureaucracy. This is what we need to do. Until the funds create or work out the approach to needs, until they go to all the procedures, everything can change because the situation may stabilize. The pharmaceuticals, medicines that were needed yesterday are not needed anymore, or there is power again. So let's leave the procedures now because we are at war, we have war. Nobody except him knows better what needs there are in Zaporozhye because he is the person to call from that place.
First of all, I'm going to thank the audience. Thank you for being so involved. This emotional discussion wouldn't be possible without you. Thank you to the panelists. There is one thing which is very good. The centralization process started in 2015. I was in the beginning of it, and there was 60 hromadas when I joined the process. Nobody believed that this is possible. Nobody believed that the reform of decentralization in Ukraine would be possible in this term. Yet today, unfortunately in these conditions, it's proven that impossible is possible, that we can do the magic. And decentralization process is putting a power and information and making municipalities information hubs, responsibility hubs for the information. I remind every day, you are here to network, to ask. If you want something, be precise. Don't spend anyone's time. So you can reach our panelists after the panel. Thank you so much. It was been an emotional discussion. I was not trusting that it's possible on the third day of the conference, but it was amazing. Thank you so much.